Hello, broadcast community. It is MJ Callaway here with your next episode of Bounce Up Broadcast. And I'm located here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And what is so great about that is both my co-host, Jim Kunkle, and our special guest, James Protin, are both in Pittsburgh. So if you can share with us, where are you coming from? And if you're connected to one of us, go ahead and share in the comments. So hello, both Jamie and Jim.
Hi, how are you, MJ? Good to see you.
Fabulous. It is so great. You know, technology is wonderful because it
It is.
doesn't matter where in the world we are coming from, we're able to connect even behind the camera.
Yeah, we're kind of like I think a few miles apart from each other right now.
That's exactly right. Yeah, not very much.
Yes. And what's fascinating is the three of us have connected or do have some connections through the LinkedIn platform, which is amazing when you think about that also. We're only a few degrees away from each other. So
Very
love
true.
that.
Yeah, no Kevin Bacon involved.
No,
Nope, not at all. And it's not even 6 degrees. I think we're 1 or 2 away from each other.
exactly. Yeah.
And that brings me to our topic today, which is about leadership and building strong teams. And think about it, gentlemen, leadership alone, and then we add in strong teams in the workforce. And we're talking about two huge topics.
Absolutely.
Yeah, MJ. I mean, leadership. It can make it can break it. And when it comes to a company or organization, and do you have a toxic leadership or do you have a very team-oriented, growth-focused leadership? So,
Yes.
Absolutely.
And one of the reasons why I thought it was great to have Jamie on the broadcast today is because Jamie is one of those people that it doesn't matter where he is like the unofficial mayor of the community. Whether he holds a position or a title or not, he is the person who is shaking hands, asking about someone's son, asking how they're doing. He knows and is connected to so many people, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to find out, what's some of his secrets? What are some tips that he can offer us about leadership and building strong teams? Because you don't have to be in a leadership position to be a leader. Would you both
True.
agree?
Absolutely.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
So,
I think so.
Jamie, oh, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say that leadership looks different for everybody, right? And it takes on a lot of different hats, and particularly if you're looking in corporate America or if you're looking in the entrepreneurial space, it's looks different for everyone.
Yeah, and
Oh,
I
good
would throw
point.
out there that I've been around for a number of years in professional capacities, and to see how things have changed. Let's say, for example, from the '90s through today,
Mhm.
leadership has really, really changed. Where in some cases, the least amount of involvement of leadership sometimes is the best
Right.
because you have today we seem to have so much resources when it comes to staff members or employees, and they have the capability to do so much
Right.
in some cases independent, but they can also work together as a team. And I think it
Yes.
comes down to a leadership to recognize that and a leader to channel that energy and that cohesiveness that sometimes people have when they work for a company or organization.
I agree. I agree. And I think that
Mhm.
the biggest mistake that most leaders make is, they put together the best team. They bring in the best talent and they build a high performing team only to turn around and try to tell them what to do.
Yeah.
You bring that
Mhm.
team in for the
Yes.
reason to, and then you get out of their way. So that's a very common mistake. Because you feel you have to do exactly that. You have to lead, right? But like I said, leadership that looks different for everyone, and so sometimes the best thing you can do is just get out of people's way.
Yeah, and Jamie, I think it
So
comes to
true.
play a lot too with the, our newest, youngest generation that's
Mhm.
currently, in the workforce. They want to be involved with the success of an organization or a company. In most cases, they even want to be involved in the decision process when it comes to the direction of a company or organization. And that can be a challenge if you have a mindset of where it's like, we have a leadership team, we'll decide exactly what we're going to do, how things are going to move forward, and we're going to have this oversight and advisory type. You really need to challenge that younger generation, because they really want to be involved sometimes to the point of making decisions. So why not challenge that, or I'm sorry, channel that.
Right.
And take advantage of that. Now, obviously, they're going to learn a lot of life lessons in the process too, and you have to look at survivability of your company or your company organizational leadership structure, because who are the next leaders that are going to take over after you move on.
Right.
Or when we think about it in a different perspective, if we're looking at leadership and also teams more as a collaborative, then I think it opens the door for better decision making rather than, okay, we have this generation who wants to do this, but they're not able to do it. And I have found in working with companies that there's more than one generation that wants to make decisions. So
Absolutely.
it's more than that. So what are you finding, Jamie?
I think that the difficulty becomes it's cultural, right? So,
Yes.
the one thing that really drives me crazy when I hear people say it's not personal, it's business. No, there's no such thing. All business is personal, right? Business is done through relationships. Relationship building is the direct path to success in any business. I don't care what market sector you're in. I don't care if you're doing engineering, it doesn't matter, right? All business is personal. So when you're building those high performing teams, right, you can't just take into consideration education or talent. You've got to think about the personal side of things. And is that person going to be a good fit culturally? Or are they going to blend into your existing team, and be able to work in that collaborative environment? Because not everybody can. So some of the best, brightest, smartest people are individual. They want to sit at that, and they just want to crank out work and be productive. But, the days of, I'm old, okay? So I can remember when, you went to work, you came home, you had dinner, you spent evenings with your family, you went to bed, you got up and did it all over again. And there was that definite separation between professional and personal. Now it's all blended together. There is no separation. So that's a difficult thing to kind of make sure you keep your head around, because culture is just as important a fit as having a specific complementary skill set when you're building a team.
Oh, definitely. And culture, the leader can make such a big impact when it comes to culture, because a lot of times it does go from the top down.
Sure.
And going back, Jamie, to what you said about a leader pulling in the best team and then micromanaging them, how does that set up the culture? It doesn't really set up a cohesive culture.
Right. No, it doesn't. It doesn't at all. I mean, because if you think about an organizational structure as a pyramid, okay, with the leader at the tip of the pyramid, you're going to fail more often than not. It has to be more of an inverted pyramid where the leader is at the back or at the bottom, pushing and driving and encouraging and empowering his team to elevate, right? So I think that, if you don't have a completely flat organization and you are going to go with that, you have to really lead from a position of where you can empower your team and give them all of the tools they need and help elevate them.
Yeah, when I think of micromanagement leadership, I think of North Korea. And you go through and you search your mind and you say, are there any examples of organizations or companies that have been successful or currently successful where they are micromanaged? I can't even think of any. Jamie, I don't know if you can think of any. MJ, I don't know if you can think of any other than, like I say,
ones. That's the key.
Yeah.
What you just said.
Yes.
Not too many successful ones.
I could think of one time when I worked for, and I don't want to mention the name of the company, and I was an assistant manager, and the manager led like that. It was her way or the highway. And the turnover was unbelievable.
Yes,
And I think that's what happens when you
exactly right.
have a leadership such as that, where it isn't cohesive or collaborative, the turnover is extremely high.
Correct. I
So,
agree.
and I want to go ahead and point out Rudy. Rudy had made a great point here is if you engage with humans, you are a leader, whether personal or professionally.
Great.
So, Rudy, great point there because it is so true.
Absolutely.
We as humans have the opportunity to lead every single day.
Well, if you have a family, that's what you're doing, right? And if you have a spouse, you have a co-leader, but and you lead by example in your family. You need to lead by example in your profession and your career as well. So when I have, especially younger people who don't have the benefit of, the timeline or the runway that I've been blessed with in my career, right? I can sit and tell them, I did it this way, and this is a good way to do it, or this is a good way to do it. Or I can show them how I do it successfully. Okay. Let them ask questions, let them see what I'm doing, see the example. And then hopefully they'll come to me and say, hey, I love the way you did that. But you know what? Have you thought about doing it this way? So that way, not only am I guiding them, am I mentoring them, they're mentoring me as well. Right. So I think I'm
Yes.
always open to that. I think mentoring and leadership goes both ways. You can lead up as well as back.
Absolutely. The one organization that I worked with as a consultant, they had they had set up in different groups. No one was in the same department, like their subgroups, their
Mhm.
cohorts. They were all from different departments, and they mentored each other
Right.
around what was happening within their
Right.
department. And it was such a successful, it was in Denver that they tried.
Mhm.
It was so successful because of the way that they had set it up,
Right.
bringing in different ages, people that worked for the company for 30 years, as well as someone who was new in the company. And it
Right.
worked out really, really well because there was mentoring going, all through each of the core cohorts.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you do it right, you get yourself into a situation where that collaboration turns into peer-to-peer mentoring, which
Yeah.
is that's the gold standard, right? So if you mentor your team and then all of a sudden they take your example and they start mentoring each other in that peer-to-peer platform, it doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah.
It's
And,
a ripple.
Right.
and
You're
the other
exactly
thing,
right.
too, I'd like to bring up with you too is post World War II we had the development of all these different type of behavioral models and ways to test the not the more the skill set but more the mental aptitude. So you have like Berkman tests, you have strength finders, and I think a lot of companies today and organizations really rely on that type of testing to try to figure out exactly what their staff member or their employee, exactly where their mind is, but also to what is their personality trait, so
Sure.
that their organization is structured in a certain way that they don't have someone who's going to be a round peg and they're trying to put them into a square,
Right. Right.
square insert. So
You have to guide people to a
Mhm.
certain extent, but you also have to be able to let loose a little bit and let them find their way. And the two most important professional mentors in my life, one was Marvin Williams, who commented the other day on this, MJ, and the other is Bruce Fletcher. And what these two gentlemen did for me, that was important is not what they taught me, but what they allowed me to learn. Okay, that's
Yes,
two different things. And they more
completely.
than anything, they allowed me to fail. They gave me the runway to fail, and so they let me learn rather than trying to teach me something that they wanted me to know. They let me learn what I needed to know.
And think about it, we learn so much more from our mistakes and our failures than
Absolutely,
we ever do from our successes,
absolutely.
because it gives us the opportunity to go back and try it again a different way. So I love that. Oh my goodness, kudos to those two,
They're
you
um,
know,
they're
for doing.
dramatically different people who have impacted my career, not only just professionally but personally. I met them
Mhm.
through my career, but that mentorship has carried over into my personal life, and honestly, I've become a better man because of both of them. Not only a better business developer and marketer, but
Mhm.
also a better human being. So,
Yeah.
and it's worth its weight in gold. You can't put a price on that.
Right? It is, because when you're a better human being, it doesn't matter what position you're in, you will have success.
Right.
Because it comes down to those core values. So
absolutely.
I want to share one little tidbit story when Jim was talking about assessments. So, and I firmly believe in assessments, but I also believe in that you need to look at assessments with the individual one-on-one. Mm-hmm. So when I had taken an assessment for going into a corporate sales position, I scored high 90s on everything except one area, and that was personality. I'm not sure exactly what I answered, but I think what I answered was I didn't like any of their answers, so I put none of the above. I actually flunked on personality. They said that I would be aloof.
Oh my goodness. That is so funny, and anyone that knows you is laughing hysterically right now.
I could not believe it, but fortunately, the person who was hiring me, we had an individual one-on-one, and it had taken 3 interviews for me to actually get this position, and each person I interviewed with in the group of 3, they got a feel for my personality before that test came back. So,
yeah.
But
that is awesome.
Makes me chuckle.
MJ, I have another funny story. Back in the early 90s, I'd worked for a division of General Electric. And I'm sorry, Westinghouse. I screwed up on that one.
2 different, yes.
Yeah, 2 different
companies.
But it was a division of Westinghouse. Ultimately, they got sold off. That's why I left. But what ended up happening was it was when the personality test started coming around. And so I took the test, and the way it was set up was you actually met with a psychologist that was a Westinghouse psychologist. They had staff personnel that were in psychology. And so I took the exam, or took the testing, sat down, and the person, I could tell that they were real jovial, they were fun, and said, okay, I've got some news about your report. It came back and it says that you are prone to become a criminal. And I'm like, what? I I really took it serious. They were kidding around. But, the interesting thing was when that first test I took, it was like, wow, that read is very accurate. But it also gave me the ability to be able to look at areas that I needed to be developed, educated. Mm-hmm. And then as time went through, the 90s into the 2000s until now, anytime these tests come out, they're always consistent for me. I haven't seen a lot of change. Some minor changes happen for me, but it's just amazing to see exactly what comes out of these different tests for aptitude, for personality, and I really, really enjoy them.
Sure, it is, and we all need that positive feedback, right? It's we do. It's the lifeblood of everything. It's not, and not just professionally, nobody wants criticism, right? But criticism is nothing more than feedback, depending on how you look at it, how you perceive it, right? So I don't take anything as a criticism. I always take it as an opportunity for myself to get better, to grow, and to learn something new. So I don't know that I've ever been criticized, in my life, but I've had a lot of people who have given me their perspective on certain things about me, my personality and such, that have enabled me to take a step back and say, okay, I can course correct this, and I can go, and that's been, again, it's worth its weight in gold. It's priceless.
Yeah. I agree with Jen here, with DISC.
Yes. Me too.
And what I've also, I remember having a counterpart, or, at a job I had worked, and it was a mismatch, and it was very evident to the company. It was very evident to me, but for this individual, this counterpart, he really felt that he was perfect for business development and staying in that role. But when this assessment and the DISC came out, it was like, you're definitely not matched properly. And the results really woke him up. And he said, maybe I've been convincing myself, and that's why I've been struggling in this role, because I'm not geared for this role. And that's fine, and the company found another opportunity for him. But it helped out the company as well, because, instead of being concerned about him or looking at him as being a development challenge, he's just not in the right position, and
Right.
we can move him over to here, and everything will work out better because that's what he's more suited for. It's the
Sure.
same thing, for myself. Every time I do these aptitudes, there's always sales, marketing, or
Mhm.
business development, and that's why I've been 30 years doing this, plus, or 30 plus years
Exactly.
doing this function. So,
And
Exactly.
going back to what Jamie had said earlier, we do need that. I'm laughing
yeah,
at Jen's comment.
yeah.
Jen, how could you tell? So going back to Jamie's comment earlier, when it comes to leadership and identifying the different people we need all types of people in the workplace. That's what
Absolutely.
builds strong teams. And when
Absolutely.
we identify that and take the best of what that person is, take
Right.
the best of what they can contribute as a team function, to function as a team, that's when we create strong teams
Absolutely.
within the workplace. So,
Absolutely.
and Jamie, I know you had a few tips that you offer because you are a keynote speaker. You talk about leadership.
Mhm.
So, when we're talking about building strong teams, what is something that you would suggest to others in the workplace?
I think really it's very simple. Everything is relationships. So you have to be a people-oriented person. Okay. And by that, I mean, you had said that, I talk to everybody, I shake everybody's hand, and, that's by design. I'd like to think that I'm a good guy, but when I go into a room, if I walk into a room and there's 500 people in that room, including me, okay, I will walk out having shaken 499 hands and introduced myself to 499 people, or that was not a successful event for me. And it's not because I'm trying to make money off of them or to go and do a specific thing, but I think getting that mindset, that people-oriented, people-first mindset is, and Jim, this in doing business development, we never met an opportunity we didn't like, right? So, Diane Altland, who is the branch manager here, she knows not to say, "Hey, what do you think about this opportunity?" Because I'm going to say, "Yeah, let's do it," But
Yes.
when you look at it from a more people perspective, then before you jump in and say, "Yes, let's do it," you automatically start to think, okay, who do I have that I can assign as the project manager for this that's going to give the client the best service, the best result, right? What engineer do I have available to design this particular system? So that people first mindset not only helps you when you're building a team with as far as culture and personality and skill set, but it also kind of pumps the brakes just a little bit so that you start to be more more intentional in how you approach your opportunities that come across your desk.
Great perspective there, definitely. So we have a long one here from William. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's kind of so interesting when you go back and you look at these. And like I say, when I compare,
Yes.
anytime I get the test done, it seems to be always consistent, and it's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
And I've used those tools to my advantage and
Me
also to my
too.
detriment, right? Until the perspective changed. And again, until I went from that pure revenue driven perspective to a more people driven perspective. And, they were a detriment. But now when I'm looking people first, okay, not only am I building better teams, but guess what? That revenue stream has increased exponentially, right? So I tell people all the time. Just a quick story. I had a company approach me to speak to their sales team. Okay, so I agreed to do it as a corporation, and there were about 50 people and salespeople from around the country. And the first thing I said to them, if you want to increase your sales right now, first thing you do is stop selling. Nope. And the CEO that brought me in, if he had one of those big long hooks like in the cartoons, he'd have drugged me out. But when you think about it, right? Nobody wants to be sold something, right? So you have to look at it from a perspective of adding value. And how do you add value? You you reach people on a personal level, right? It's a relationship level, relationship building on a personal level. That's how you increase sales. That's how you build, strong, high performing teams.
Yes. And with that, talking about being people oriented, people focused, it's having that compassion or that empathy too, to be able to take outside of your own perspective and step into their shoes. Like, okay, this isn't about me right now. It's what do they need?
Yes, you're exactly right.
Yeah, going back to that. So going back to strengths, both William and Jen had mentioned, and looking at, how we worked in the workplace. When I worked in corporate sales, I would get a lot of the challenging leads that came in. And it at first used to really drive me crazy. I will say it also at times ticked me off, because I thought, why am I getting all the hard people? And then I realized it was because I had the personality that I could soften, the people that were a little bit more challenging, that I could step back and work with them better than my counterparts who didn't have quite the personality. And it ended up, our location did really, really well because of it. So it's finding those. But I also knew, going back to strengths that William mentioned, in the disc, I have a low C, that analytical. So when I would have a client who needed much more more analytical conversation, I would pass that client on, because I knew I couldn't serve them as well. So
MJ, I thought for sure, with you being a top performer, you would get the Glengarry leads. For those that ever watched Glengarry, Glen Ross.
Oh my goodness.
Hey, William posted another comment here. Ability to understand people, meet people where they are, for me, is the single biggest thing managers and leaders need to work on day in and day out.
I think William's spot on right there, because that's
definitely.
And again, a people focus, when you have that, to succeed in any business, you have to have expertise, you have to have experience, and you have to have heart, right? So that's where the people comes in the heart. Okay. There's a lot of people who are very, very good at what they do, but yet they can't go out and generate revenue for a firm, right? They're the doers. Okay. Because they're analytical. As you said, they're focused on a specific task, a specific goal. But when you're more open and you bring the heart into the experience and the expertise, then all of a sudden that opens up more channels and more opportunities, not only for projects, for revenues, but also for team building. And again, team building when it comes to corporate partnerships. If you have a large proposal, like in the water and wastewater industry, there are various tiers of in size as far as public utilities, right? A water utility or a wastewater utility. Some are out above the reach of a firm like GPI. Okay. So in order for us to pursue certain types of opportunities on a national level, we need to have a strong teaming partner. Right. And I learned the hard way many, many years ago that my competitor on Tuesday is most likely my strongest partner on Thursday. Right. So again, it leads to that, developing those relationships internally beyond the name, the logo that's on the shirt. Right. So, when you do that and you get to know people within the organization, and Jim, I'm speaking your language, I know I am, that's how you build very high quality, high performing teams.
Well said. 2 thumbs up there. So, and then for those who are joining us, so Jamie, can you give us a one sentence? What do you do for GPI?
Business development and marketing in the water and wastewater and stormwater space across the country. I'm based in Pittsburgh, but we're working in pretty much every state east of the Mississippi River.
Okay. And because you were in similar I don't know if it's similar. So Jim, you can go ahead and tackle that. Are you in similar spaces? So Jim, what do you do outside of Build Out and Bounce Out podcast?
Okay, so I work for a global organization that focuses on accreditation, education, certification related to corrosion industry and also the protective coatings industry as well. In my particular focus, I work directly with, as Jamie was talking about, for example, with water, wastewater, I work with those contacts that manage the specification, and my job is to get them to adequately put in proper standards, accreditation programs for, let's say, contractors or inspection firms like GPI is, and also focused on the craft workers that are doing project work to make sure that they are trained and have skill certification so that for the owner, and if it's for a municipality or government funding, that it's in the best interest of the owner and the public to get a longer life cycle because the projects are being done properly versus just being done cheaply.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good point. And for our audience, what's fascinating about the two of them is they didn't know each other until today, right before this broadcast. So you never know where your next connection will come from. So it's always being open. As Jamie said, he can shake 499 hands when he walks into a room. So, and that's building those relationships and those connections. So we are just about out of time here. So Jamie, what is one last thing or tip that you would like to share with us and our audience before we sign off?
I don't want to keep repeating myself, but I would reiterate that the greatest opportunity for anyone in business is the next person you meet. And it doesn't matter where you're at. It could be person standing in a line at a coffee shop. Could be just somebody that brushes past you on a street that maybe bumps against you, and you turn around and instead of saying, "Hey, what are you doing?" say, "Hey, how are you? How's your day going?" So I think the greatest opportunity that we all have as business people is the next person we meet.
Well said. Okay, I need to write that quote down. I will reference you in that quote, but that will be my next graphic I create. So very well said. And Jamie, how can people get a hold of you?
You can get a hold of me here on LinkedIn, and I'm James Protin, also on Facebook and Instagram, and other than that, my email is jprotin, PROTIN @gpinet.com. Feel free to get in touch, reach out, and if you have any questions or comments, or just want to introduce yourself, I'd be more than happy to have a conversation.
All right, great. Thank you so much. And Jim, just a quickie, how can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, like Jamie, follow me on LinkedIn, and every Wednesday, please, you can check out all new stream regarding build out and really great business topics that we're covering. So appreciate checking out my stream on Wednesdays at noon Eastern.
All right. And Rudy, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that feedback. Really appreciate it, because we do want to bring good content week after week after week. So I am MJ Callaway, and I am here every Thursday at noon. You can connect with me on LinkedIn here. Also, I have a lot of free resources on my website at mjcallaway.com. So until next time, remember to make it a bounce up day.
Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.